Let's begin by introducing the law of cause and effect as our foundation. What does the law of cause and effect in Buddhism tell us? It tells us that what you sow, you shall reap. We often use a simple analogy. What kind of seed you plant is the kind of fruit you'll harvest. If you plant melons, you'll get melons. If you plant beans, you'll get beans. If you plant sweet, delicious pears, you'll enjoy sweet, delicious pears. But if you plant a chili seed, you'll have to eat bitter chili. That's the basic principle. Yet, as we dig deeper, as we delve into many of its internal complexities, countless new issues emerge. Some of these issues, if we lack the spiritual insight to see them, can leave us feeling utterly stuck. And indeed, this is precisely what happens in life. Many religious theories have reached a dead end, a cul-de-sac. Every spiritual theory, when viewed through the lens of logic and science, is bound to encounter a dead end. Only the law of cause and effect escapes this deadlock and continues to progress, even though it faces its own set of challenges. Let's consider this example. Take religions of divine power, those that worship God or a supreme being. They claim that everything in this world is created by God. Initially, this idea is very easy to accept. In primordial times, we lacked the scientific knowledge to understand everything. So, when we could no longer explain something, we simply blamed God. It was like when we were children, it's raining. Bring me water to drink. Or, why am I suffering? God is making me suffer. We always create an image of a supreme being to blame for things we cannot explain. In the beginning, it was merely a primitive human tendency. But unfortunately, people developed it into a religion, asserting that there is a supreme, omnipotent God with a specific form, specific power. Doing this and doing that, creating the world in such and such a way. However, when human intellect, human philosophy, and human science advance and people begin to question these assertions, the theory immediately becomes stuck. For instance, if everything is created by God, then what was God's motive, his purpose in creating heaven, earth, and human beings? Was it just to play? To joke? Like when we mold figures to play with. God creates to play, to joke? But suffering is real. Human suffering is real. So, did God create everything just to joke about human suffering? Stuck. Now, does God love sentient beings? Yes, he loves. If he loves, then why are there wars, diseases, and plagues filling this world? Humans only see suffering. Or, consider the recent earthquake and tsunami in Japan. Even today, the entire world is still anxiously worried that nuclear reactors could explode, releasing radiation into the atmosphere and posing an extreme danger to humanity. And that tsunami that surged up and swept away 3 provinces, it wasn't like the tsunami in South Asia that hit hundreds of meters inland and then receded. This tsunami in Japan was like billions upon billions of cubic meters of water overflowing inland, pushing deep into the land for tens of kilometers, sweeping away everything in its path. Even today, the full extent of the damage is truly inestimable. The death toll after that earthquake, one shake, everything collapsed. People stepping out onto the streets found more than half the population of that village or town gone. So, who caused these things? Science impartially seeks the causes in shifting tectonic plates, folds, and so on. But what will religious scholars say if they believe in a supreme being? It is precisely because of such numerous dilemmas that theological theories, to a certain extent, reach a point where, as human intellect develops, they stop and become stuck. Or consider another spiritual theory that suggests people have a destiny, a fate based on their age, appearance, and birth date. It claims that because they were born under a certain constellation on a specific day, their life must be a certain way. So, does an earthquake that sweeps everything away mean that all those people coincidentally shared the same astrological charts to bear this consequence? For example, an earthquake rumbles, instantly killing tens of thousands of people, with tens of thousands more missing. Those tens of thousands of fates. They had different ages, different birth years, different appearances. Everything was different, yet they all shared the same tragic death. So, can the theory of destiny, which asserts that each person has a slightly different birth date and fate, explain this particular case? We observe that many spiritual theories, when pushed to their ultimate conclusions and compared with the realities of life, reveal their dead ends. But the law of cause and effect, however, still transcends them all. It still explains everything, it continues to explain. Although sometimes it encounters a few complex issues that leave people wondering. But the law of cause and effect still transcends everything. This is what makes it unique. This is precisely why. After studying numerous religious theories, the renowned physicist Albert Einstein declared, "If there is any religion that could cope with modern scientific needs, it would be Buddhism. Only Buddhism can achieve this." This famous statement by Einstein made many intellectuals curious and led them to study Buddhism. Why? Because a brilliant mind like Einstein's left behind many theories that remain unproven to this day. Yet, as technology advances and validates them, Einstein is continuously proven right. Such an astonishing mind, he saw beyond time itself. Initially, his theories were known as the special theory of relativity and the general theory of relativity. When he presented these, they were merely theories during his lifetime. With the development of some astronomical techniques and certain astronomical observations, people began to see that he was right. But the extent to which he was proven right was a very small part of his vast theories. Even today, many of his theories have not yet been sufficiently tested by technology. So, if anyone asks who is the greatest physicist in the world from ancient times to now, it is still Einstein. No one has surpassed him. And that mind, that great mind, acknowledged Buddhism as a path that transcends other religions, capable of encompassing both spirituality and science. So, this person's words are not to be taken lightly. Buddhism has something truly remarkable. This famous quote has become a source of pride for those who follow Buddhism and has prompted many intellectuals to explore it. In Buddhism, which we are discussing today, there is a very special law, the law of cause and effect. We exist here with our particular destinies, with this appearance, this health, these circumstances, this luck, this life situation, all because of things we have accumulated over many, many past lives. We emphasize many past lives because it's not as simple as one life leading directly to the next. Sometimes, an action we perform in one life doesn't manifest its karmic retribution in the very next life. It might appear 10 lives later. For example, someone might create the cause to become a king, but in the very next life, the conditions might not be sufficient. Why? Because in any country at any given time, there is only one king. The conditions for this person to become king in the next life might not align because someone else has already created the cause to be king at the exact time this person is living their next life. Thus, this person lacks the necessary conditions to become king, as a person's destiny is a synthesis of many other destinies. This is truly a complex problem with countless intertwined parameters. Our individual destiny is a combination of innumerable other destinies. So, every cause and effect we have sown in our lives, and the cause and effect sown by countless others in their lives, seem to be intertwined and interconnected, combining to form the entirety of this society. For instance, some people have sown the seeds to become a king. They possess the necessary courage to be a king, the wisdom to be a king, and they've sown sufficient seeds to become a king. But in their next life, they might not become king because the conditions, the convergence with many other people, haven't yet arrived. So, in that next life, they might simply be a teacher, or perhaps the CEO of a labor export company. They cannot become king. They have to wait. And during the time they are waiting for the results of their kingship to manifest, they calmly perform their good deeds as usual. They live, they continue to cultivate their courage, their wisdom, and they continue to sow good deeds, adding to their store of merit. Then, in the life where the conditions for their kingship finally align, they are naturally born into that family, that social standing, they are educated in a certain way, they grow up. Everything just pushes and guides them along, and they don't have to exert much effort. It's truly remarkable. When the right conditions arrive, life itself carries them forward. They don't have to struggle. It's truly remarkable. Suddenly, they find themselves becoming king, and everything meticulously aligns to make it happen. And from the first life to the fifth life, where they become king, what they did during those 4 intermediate lives contributes to making their life as king in the fifth life more beautiful, brighter, or simply just right. If, during those 4 interim lives, while waiting for the conditions to become king to succeed, they are individuals who have practiced and cultivated merit, continuing to refine themselves, then in the fifth life, when they become king, that king will be truly valuable, truly brilliant. Their deeds will be magnificent. When they pass away, their name will live on among the people. They will be revered and loved. However, if during those 4 intermediate lives they live a rather ordinary existence, even though the cause to be king has been sown, and the result of kingship is bound to come, but if they live a rather ordinary life during that time, then in the 5th life they will also become king, but they won't be a brilliant king. The accomplishments they leave behind for the world will not be grand, and when their life passes, everything will sink into oblivion. So, here we see that the law of cause and effect is dynamic. It is not fixed. It constantly demands that we strive tirelessly, that we train continuously. Many people ask us, "Teacher, what does Buddhism mean by the law of cause and effect? Is what we suffer in this life due to a past life? So, does the law of cause and effect encourage us to resign ourselves to our fate because everything is already predestined?" We answer, no. Resignation is the theory of destiny, but the theory of cause and effect is the theory of effort. For example, take someone who suffers an accident and loses an arm. According to the law of cause and effect, this happened because of a cause that person created in a previous life. Perhaps we inadvertently or intentionally committed some unwholesome act, and it created enough karmic conditions for us to lose an arm in this life. So now, the fact that this person has to have an arm amputated. They went to the hospital, the arm was gangrenous. They had to cut it off. We explain that it was because this person mistakenly sowed the wrong cause in a previous life, and thus they are now experiencing the result. This reasoning offers 2 benefits. The first benefit is that they don't suffer. They confront their misfortune and accept it as their own fault. This is the greatness of the law of cause and effect. People take responsibility for themselves and are no longer tormented. Their minds are at peace. Why is it that when you accept responsibility for your mistakes, your mind finds peace? Let me tell you, this is a principle of education. For example, Mr. Thwan, as a general director, you will understand this very clearly. When one of your subordinates makes a mistake, you call them in and reprimand them. Initially, that person will be annoyed, resistant, and defensive. This very act of resisting, being annoyed, and denying is what makes them restless. But you see it clearly. At that point, you persuade them, you present the evidence. After everything is proven, that person realizes that their recent failure was indeed their own fault. Then, they accept their mistake. When they accept their mistake, suddenly they find peace. This is very clear. Mr. Thwan, have you seen this many times? When a person admits their mistake, their mind is at peace, just like a police officer investigating a crime. When they go to investigate a crime and arrest someone, that person is angry, they deny, they push back. They try every way to refute the charges. But the police investigator remains patient. They present evidence point by point, all the evidence, until the other person is speechless, unable to argue anymore. They bow their head and admit guilt. We often use the phrase bow their head and admit guilt. What does bow their head signify? It implies a humble heart, accepting guilt. So, when they are no longer aggressive, when they humble themselves, they immediately find peace. They immediately burst into tears. Instead of being aggressive and stubborn for days before, now they sit, tears streaming, admitting guilt. And at that moment, they feel more at peace than in the previous days when they were trying to deny guilt. It's like a person who was a fugitive for many years. Then one day, they arrived at a random police station on their escape route and confessed, surrendered. After surrendering and their records were taken, they were transferred back to their old local area where they committed the crime for further questioning and legal proceedings. The police officer sitting beside him asked, "Why did you surrender when you had been on the run for 12 years? The case was almost forgotten. Why did you surrender?" He said, "I experienced 2 different periods. One period was before I decided to surrender. My life was hell. My soul was hell. I was extremely restless. But the moment I decided to surrender, I began to find peace. And the second period was when I came to you, when I truly surrendered and confessed everything. My soul was incredibly peaceful. I accept any punishment that comes to me. The punishment might be painful, but my mind is at peace. And this peaceful mind is what is truly valuable, and I find happiness right here. I face my mistakes. I accept paying the price for all my mistakes, but I gain something immense. My soul is at peace. That's why I surrendered." So this is the benefit of the law of cause and effect. For example, When our arm is amputated, we no longer blame heaven and earth but quietly think that it was our own fault in a past life. Perhaps we broke someone's arm or leg. Or perhaps too many chicken legs or duck legs. So, at some point, we must pay that retribution. That's the first benefit, accepting fault within ourselves, and immediately our mind finds peace. The second benefit, now we transform this karma of a missing limb. We don't become a cripple. Although we've lost an arm, we don't become a cripple. We resolve to do good things, to sow new merits, to change our karmic results. So, this person, even with one arm, uses that one arm and their two remaining legs to do good things in life, trying to help anyone they can. Unexpectedly, karma begins to shift. Karma shifts. We thought we were destined to suffer with one arm, but with the remaining arm, we continue to do good things, to love people, to help people within our capabilities. Sometimes, for instance, sitting at home, seeing children pass by, asking them what's wrong, if they're going to school, if their grades are low today. After a while, we call them in, and every day with just one arm, we teach them, tutor them for free for the neighborhood kids. That is, doing small, good deeds. Until a time when the cause and effect are fully ripened, when that person's merit is complete, they begin to encounter good fortune. What is this good fortune? Their family becomes wealthy. They gain access to high technology. At that time, the world had also just invented a prosthetic arm controlled by thought, and they suddenly encountered a very generous benefactor. Looking at this girl's face, the benefactor thought, this girl's face is so lovely, so gentle and kind, but she has to endure having a missing arm. That kind-hearted person took her, treated her with new technology, sent her abroad to have a prosthetic arm fitted, connecting nerves to the muscle system. When she returned, no one could tell she had a missing arm because the prosthetic arm looked just like a real hand. She could even bend her fingers. Suddenly, karma shifts. The person with a missing arm becomes a person with a healthy arm. Although the arm cannot grow back, as current medicine doesn't allow a severed arm to regrow, this person's merit demanded that they have an arm because with their one arm they had done so many good things in life. This person's merit dictated they must have two arms, and thus, they received a prosthetic arm that was like real. So, this is the transformation of karma. Therefore, the law of cause and effect offers us at least two benefits in times of misfortune. First, knowing how to accept responsibility for our mistakes brings peace to our minds. Second, knowing how to strive and change our lives even when they seemed utterly lost. Now, what about successful people? For example, if we hold positions of great power or are wealthy, what does the law of cause and effect give us? It gives us this. First, we know for sure that in previous lives, we often performed good deeds. Perhaps in previous lives, and many lives before that, we consistently helped others and served diligently, which is why in this life our status is above many others. Thinking in this way, do we dare to be arrogant? Knowing the law of cause and effect, no one is arrogant. People who don't understand cause and effect, as soon as they achieve a little success, immediately become arrogant, saying, my talent is great, my skills are excellent. That's why I invested and won. I won because I'm talented and skillful. Everyone must acknowledge me, promote me to this position and that position. This gives rise to arrogance. And this very arrogance is the greatest misfortune for human beings. This arrogance buries our souls and immediately plunges our lives into darkness. But those who understand cause and effect are not arrogant. When they succeed, they reflect, realizing that in their success, despite their efforts, there was still a factor, an element of luck accompanying their life, not solely due to effort or talent. Isn't that right, Mr. Thwan? When we look back at our lives alongside our efforts, there's always an element of luck secretly accompanying us. If we reflect, we will see it. And at that moment, a person who believes in the law of cause and effect, even in success, is not arrogant. That's the first point. And the second is knowing that what we call success never reaches a final peak. Merit also never reaches a final level. If we become complacent and stop, one day we will fall back down. We will fall back down. Therefore, even in success, we must remain humble. We must still strive to continue doing good deeds so we can continue to develop. The point is that we must continue to do good deeds to develop even further, because no one should ever be satisfied with what they have. When we are satisfied with what we have already stopped progressing. This statement might be misunderstood, but it is deeply necessary in both spiritual learning and in society. From a spiritual perspective, for example, When a practitioner achieves some spiritual attainment, the Buddha teaches that it is still not enough, not yet the ultimate holy state, and one must continue to strive. Even a venerable who has attained the third fruit in the agami, arahant in Sanskrit, which we transliterate into Vietnamese as a ham, a person who has attained the third fruit possesses supernatural powers. They know many past lives, they can see a person's future, and they can fly. Manifest fire and water even pass through walls. A person who has attained the third fruit is at such a high level, yet the Buddha still rebukes them, saying that a saint who has attained the third fruit still has 5 faults, 2 of the most obvious being arrogance and laziness. Think about it, someone who has attained such a high spiritual level, and the Buddha still criticizes them for 2 faults. Therefore, in spiritual learning, no one is ever allowed to be complacent with what they have achieved because the Absolute is infinite. In society, it's the same. For example, whatever we possess, we must understand that it can run out, it can be lost if we become complacent. Therefore, we must constantly strive and aspire for something even better. Wishing for something better is different from ambition. For example, our company now specializes in human resource training for the aviation industry. We supply the entire industry almost, right? Almost the entire industry. We've certainly met the industry's requirements, but in reality, we can still do much more if we try harder. That is, if we can do something well, we can still do it even better. The people trained here must be even better, not just as good as we've trained them in the past. Why? Because human beings are the primary agents that make everything happen. If the people we train go out at a certain level, they will build the aviation industry, build their own lives, and build society to that extent. But if we train them more deeply, with something truly special, then when they go out, they will contribute to the aviation industry's greater development, make their personal lives happier, and help build a more beautiful society. That is our vision, and we are never satisfied. For instance, if you ask how many people you train annually for the aviation industry, we might say, "Oh, I've supplied enough. I can even export people for this and that with such and such a number." At first glance, that might seem like a success. But no, for a wise person, for someone who understands the law of cause and effect, you should never be complacent. We still have something we can do even better. What is that even better? Let's compare this and then we will see. Just now, we revisited the earthquake and tsunami in Japan. For example, when the earthquake and tsunami in South Asia in 2004 killed nearly 300,000 people and devastated coastal areas, the damage was tragic, leaving only sorrow in the hearts of the world. The entire world donated money, expressing profound grief. But with Japan, 2 distinct sentiments emerged when news of their tsunami and earthquake broke, and as the world followed their reports, the first was still sorrow. The second was admiration. The second was truly astonishing, awe-inspiring. Admiration for a nation that, amidst such utter disaster and devastation, still maintained discipline and order. No looting, no stealing. People still queued for goods, received supplies, and spoke to each other with calm, gentle words. The world was filled with admiration. No other country has ever shown such a response. Not even the United States. When Hurricane Katrina hit Florida, looting immediately erupted. Stores left unguarded were instantly plundered, sometimes even with robbery and murder. Hollywood even produced films depicting the chaos when Hurricane Katrina struck Florida, Miami, Florida. Yet, in Japan, amidst such a catastrophe, no crime, no wrongdoing occurred. The entire world admired how Japan lives, what their ethics are, what their culture is, that it could be so formidable. People were immediately full of praise. So, we must ask ourselves, this admiration is worth deep reflection. It is worth reflecting on how the Japanese taught their people, how their ancestors educated their children and grandchildren, that now, in the face of such a formidable challenge, they reveal an absolutely remarkable, almost perfect character, almost the most exemplary people on this planet, something no other nation possesses. The entire world both sympathizes with the Japanese and admires them. So, what can we do, standing as Vietnamese people, especially since we are human resource trainers? We must be able to contribute, in some way, to what the Japanese ancestors taught their children and grandchildren. We must be able to do that, and even more so, not because of ambitious competition, but because we want good things to be provided to this world. That is our dream. We can call it ambition, but this ambition is not for personal gain. This ambition is a desire to provide truly abundant good things for this life. Every single person trained by our company must be exceptionally outstanding, truly excellent. Their lives will be happier, and their contributions to the world will be greater. That is our dream, our ambition, and that striving is endless, because we can always do more than what we're currently doing. Remember that. Never stop. And the law of cause and effect compels us to be that way. Humans should never be complacent. Why? Because any merit enjoyed will eventually be exhausted, except for those who are never complacent, who forever continue to love people, who forever continue to do good deeds from this life to the next. Such a person will gradually achieve infinite merit, and what is the ultimate result of that infinite merit? That infinite merit leads us to the ultimate result. We will become a Buddha of the future. There is a story in the history of the Buddha's life. After 6 years of ascetic practice, he realized that austerity did not lead to enlightenment. So he resumed eating and drinking to regain his strength, then sat under the Bodhi tree and entered meditation for 49 days. He entered deeper and deeper states of meditation until he reached the third jhana, at which point Mara began to interfere. Because in the heavens there existed a force known as Mara, the demon king. This Mara was also a being of great merit, but he was envious. He disliked anyone surpassing him and detested anyone escaping his sphere of influence. Mara dominated this world. So, when he saw a human about to escape Mara's net and on the verge of teaching countless others to become holy and break free from Mara's grasp, Mara became enraged and attempted to disrupt. Disrupting in one way didn't work, disrupting in another way didn't work. Arrows were shot at him to kill him, but when the arrows touched him, they transformed into flowers showering around him. Then, people armed with swords were sent to slash at him, to injure him and force him to abandon his practice. But their blades, upon touching him, transformed into a shimmering mist of light and fragrant flowers that could not harm him. Mara was so frustrated that he personally appeared and debated with the Buddha. The Buddha, before his enlightenment, said this, "You cannot harm me." Why? Because I have accumulated an immense amount of merit. His answer was not about his own brilliance or skill. He did not say he was talented, but simply because I have accumulated an immense amount of merit throughout immeasurable eons. There is no place on this earth that is not a place where I have done good deeds. Then Mara challenged, "Who will bear witness for you?" At that very moment, the earth spirit appeared and declared, "I am the spirit of this great earth. I bear witness to the words of the venerable Gautama. Indeed, for immeasurable eons, there is no place on this earth that is not a place where Gautama has brought benefit to sentient beings." So he accumulated merit endlessly, and the ultimate result was becoming a Buddha of the three realms. Humans revered him, and even the heavenly realms had to pay homage to him. That is the ultimate outcome. And we are the same. In this law of cause and effect, if we understand it, we must never be complacent with the karmic results we have received. If we have been blessed, we must always strive more, always strive more. Why? Because enjoyed merit will eventually run out. We must always strive and work harder, work even harder. We are truly delighted to share the Dharma with you, the brothers and sisters at this labor supply company. Why? Because you are creating something that is everything, because human beings are the fundamental agents of all things. Let's look at Singapore, a country with no natural resources, only its people, yet it has become a prosperous and powerful nation, a rich and respected island, solely because of its people. So, we have a dream to ensure that the people we train become exceptionally outstanding individuals, one by one. After they leave here, our company will grow even larger. Now, let's return to Japan. The Japanese are admired as they are because their ancestors taught them something profound. It is precisely because their ancestors taught them something that Japanese technology is considered the best in the world. For example, they also manufacture cars. But American Ford cars frequently break down. We all know the word Ford, right? FRD. Even Americans themselves joke about their own country's cars, saying Ford stands for 4 words: fix or repair daily. So, Ford cars are always breaking down and needing repairs, which is why Ford's sales plummeted. The company went bankrupt, and the government had to step in and subsidize it to save it, because they couldn't abandon a major national brand. Where did the problem lie? In the technology. Why do things break down so easily? Cars are unstable, consume a lot of fuel, and frequently malfunction. Japanese cars, on the other hand, don't consume much fuel, and don't break down easily. The world feels very secure driving Japanese cars. So, whose minds are superior, the Japanese or the Americans? If we talk about intelligence, it's not certain that the Japanese are superior to the Americans. Why? Because Americans have Bill Gates, right? He created the most famous software in the world, sold everywhere. And how many talented people, how many Nobel Prizes keep flowing into the United States every year? Every year, when Nobel Prizes are awarded, the United States always wins several. So, the American mind is not inferior to the Japanese, but American products are inferior to Japanese products. Why? Because they lack a heart. Americans, compared to Japanese, lack a heart. How do we know they lack a heart? Just look at the difference between Hurricane Katrina and the earthquake in Sendai. Over there, when water flooded the city, people immediately took the opportunity to loot. But in Sendai, no one looted anyone's property. They helped each other, lived disciplined lives, and overcame difficulties together. It is this heart, this very heart, that has created the miracle of Japan, the miracle of Japan's technology. This is something we must learn from and the world must admire. So, where does that heart integrate into machinery and technology? It integrates into machinery and technology to produce products that are durable, good, and fuel efficient. It's the heart. It's the heart, not just talent. So imagine a Japanese engineer sitting in a laboratory. When they design a machine, their mind may have completed the design, but their heart does not allow them to stop, because their heart still feels that they must strive even harder to find even greater perfection. It is this heart that elevates the product to a higher level. So here we are saying that the world competes with each other with their minds, their talent, their intelligence. But they forget that there is a very large parameter with which we must also compete, the heart. This is what we must compete with, because whoever possesses a great heart, if we quote a famous saying, only people with great hearts find great happiness. But that saying skips many stages. It skips several intermediate steps to claim that only people with great hearts find great happiness. In reality, it must pass through several intermediate stages. How so? Because people with great hearts create better products. They perform their work with greater integrity. They treat people with more love, more kindness. And when they do their work, they are more diligent, more responsible. That's what a great heart does. And the result of these more qualities, more diligent, more responsible, more decent, more meticulous, more perfect, ultimately leads to greater happiness. So when we say, only people with great hearts find great happiness, we must understand that it has gone through many intermediate steps. It is this heart that has driven success, not just the intellect alone. But in this era, with the rapid advancement of technical civilization, people tend to believe that being smart is enough to gain an advantage. They think, if I just get many degrees, if I'm smart, I'll gain an advantage. I'm sorry, no. Japan's answer has proven the opposite. It is the heart that has created success. That is, a cultural lifestyle of decency, striving harder, being more responsible, striving for greater perfection. Suddenly, they produce a better product for humanity. The word product here has two meanings: material products and service products. A material product could be a machine, while service products cover many aspects, for example, tourism services, reception services, and so on. So, when we experience those services, we feel more satisfied, and that is a direct human interaction. They are more meticulous, more thorough, more careful. There was one time when the Japanese organized a conference called the Buddhist Summit. They invited many countries from around the world. Our country's venerables were also invited. That day, Lieutenant General Tran Tuan, the head of Department A41, also attended. When he returned, he came to visit us in the south and recounted his trip. He said, I could not have imagined the meticulousness of the Japanese when they organized an event. I could not have imagined that from the moment I landed. They took care of me until I boarded the plane to return home. There wasn't a single moment they left my side, even when I went to the restroom. Surprising, isn't it? Yes. When I got up from my room to go to the restroom, someone followed me to guide me. This is the restroom, like this and like that. And when I was inside doing my business, they stood outside the door waiting. Incredible, isn't it? Just to go to the restroom. So we understand that many other aspects were also handled with the same level of care. And thus their heart, ingrained in their culture, has created excellent products, both material products and service products. They are meticulous to that extent, which is why they continue to succeed. becoming the world's second-largest economy. Now they've just been surpassed by China because China is so vast and we don't know what is special about their policy direction. But truly, a small country like Japan, with frequent earthquakes and scattered islands, has risen so remarkably. Now, let's briefly ask a side question. Why do they experience such terrible tsunamis and earthquakes? It's because they made a mistake. The great mistake of the Japanese is their fondness for eating whale meat. They specialize in hunting whales in the ocean, and whales are sacred creatures of the ocean. Whales possess remarkably keen and strange instincts. Whales have even saved people. Many materialist scientists argue, "Oh, they just accidentally surfaced and supported the boat." People say they rescued them. No, it's not accidental. It cannot be accidental when two whales jointly lift a boat and bring it to shore, then recede. That is never accidental. Clearly, there was intention, deliberation, consciousness. And so, whales are sacred creatures in the ocean, something Vietnamese people understand very well, but the Japanese intentionally disregard it. They continue to hunt whales, catching and eating them. And for many years, the world has protested vehemently. Organizations like Greenpeace continuously follow Japanese whaling ships. They know which ship is going whaling, so they relentlessly pursue them. Sometimes, for example, a Japanese whaling ship is heading this way and over there they see several spouts of water, whales spouting. So the Greenpeace ships know. They immediately block the way. If a harpoon is fired and hits a whale, it will hit the Greenpeace ship first. They sacrifice themselves, they act as a shield to protect the whales. But the Japanese consistently ignore them, simply going around, even down to the South Pole, catching whales to eat. We don't understand what they eat, but they hunt all the sacred creatures of the ocean. So, when the ocean took its revenge, 3 provinces were completely wiped out. So, that's a bit about them. They are good. But from many perspectives, sometimes they make mistakes, so we won't dwell on that. But now, let's return to our own issue. Buddhism offers us the teaching of the law of cause and effect. And within this law, we must strive ceaselessly to sow good things for our own karma and for this life. For example, whether our company can grow large or not isn't solely dependent on the general director pushing it forward. It requires every single person with their own hands, their own hearts, their own minds, to join the director in moving the company forward. We shouldn't simply rely on the director being so skilled and just sit back, waiting for his instructions. If we do that, we lack a heart. Our minds are only half developed and our hands are very weak. We must understand things with the director's understanding. We must live with the director's heart. We must share the director's dream. For example, he isn't satisfied with the company's current state. He wants to contribute more to society because he believes the company must do better, not just stay at this level. So he dreams like that, but whose thoughts will be in sync with his? Who will journey with him? Who will share his dream? Therefore, it must be a total collective effort from everyone here for the company to move forward. And what do we move the company forward for? The phrase "move forward" is meaningless, pointless. What is moving forward for? Moving forward means contributing more to this society, that is, to our industry and generally to society as a whole. But to truly contribute better and more, what does that entail? It means we must train a workforce that is sharper, more excellent, and more capable. So, how can we possibly train people to be better, sharper, more capable, and more excellent if each of us within this company is not yet sharper, not yet more capable, not yet more excellent? We must change ourselves first. We must change ourselves first. When we begin to grasp the problem, our hearts will open, and our minds will follow, and our hands will reach out accordingly. We will strive much harder to elevate our own level first. The other day, I attended a healthcare conference organized by Dr. Vuan. Dr. Vuan founded the Healthcare Association, and he was deeply concerned about the illnesses and health of Vietnamese people. He had many dreams. Truly, he is a person with a great heart. That day, I was scheduled to speak, but the other leaders spoke for too long. Mr. Nguyen Tien Nguyen finished speaking exactly at 11:30, so we had to break. In the afternoon, I was busy, so I excused myself to attend to other matters. Afterward, I conveyed my ideas in a talk with the Vietnam CEO Club, which is an association of Vietnamese general directors. That day, I stated, "We must dream of elevating the stature of Vietnamese people to that of a new race. Let's look back at Vietnamese history. There is no architectural work as grand as those in other countries around the world. When we go to Cambodia, just Angkor Wat alone surpasses anything we have. Vietnam still has nothing comparable, let alone China and European countries with their majestic ancient castles. So why is this? 2 reasons. First, our economy is weak. Second, our physical stature is small. That was in the past. As for today, just observe the oil rigs and offshore platforms. You'll see the Indonesian oil and gas specialists we contract. When they go out to work on the rig, they work from morning till evening without eating or drinking a single drop of water. They only eat and rest after their work is done. Vietnamese people, no way. Vietnamese people work for an hour or 2, then they have to rest, eat, and drink. But Indonesians don't. They endure and work continuously because their productivity is so good, which is why we prefer to hire them. Their physical endurance is remarkable. If we look further to China, they train their soldiers in -25°C with thick snow, forcing them to run shirtless to build their physical strength. We haven't been able to do that. So, with small stature and poor physical strength in terms of economic development, we are inferior to the world. In terms of national defense, we are inferior to the world simply because of our small stature and poor physical strength. Therefore, we must have a plan for rigorous training and appropriate nutrition to enhance the physical strength of future generations of Vietnamese people. Of course, there must be health, wisdom, and ideals. We must have these 3 qualities to build the country. But first, let's talk about health. So now, let's return to our company. We provide our industry with people who are the agents of all solutions. But to ensure these people, after leaving our company, bring glory to the nation and the industry, then our company itself. Each and every one of us within the company must take a new step forward. We must elevate ourselves to a new level. We must understand what makes an excellent person, a sharp person. A very dedicated, very responsible, very loving, very eager, very dreaming person. We must understand this, and then we ourselves must also elevate ourselves. Because superficial people cannot train excellent people. That's why when I arrived here earlier and spoke with Mr. Thuan, I saw that he is an intelligent person, eloquent, speaks well, and is a bit unconventional. His unconventionality probably causes friction with many people, but notably he is someone who dares to take responsibility. Dares to take responsibility for what he does and dares to crave, dares to dream. We are very happy to have such a director, such a leader. However, one leader alone cannot achieve anything. He cannot achieve anything because he is just one person. It requires everyone to be united in thought and action. We must understand with his understanding. We must dream with his dream. And we must strive with his effort. Only then, with all of us moving together, will we be able to do many better things than in the past, which we thought were already good. No, we just have to look at Japan alone and it's already a challenge. How can we cultivate people like that? Gentle, profound, dedicated, perfect in technology. Creating good products that the world must respect. In service, dealing with people, meticulous, dedicated, decent. Yet, in disaster, in accident, they control themselves to such an extent. Just that alone is a great lesson for us. And now we take that culture, that thought, and apply it to training Vietnamese people. And can we be even better? Because we should never be complacent. For example, the Japanese are good, so we imitate them. But merely being as good as them means we are still behind them. We must aspire to think, can humanity be even better than that? Can it be even better? That is the goal we must strive for. The goal we must strive for is, we have learned the essence from this person and that person, but if we are only as good as them, we will always be following behind them. So, how can we be even better? And this is the responsibility of Vietnamese people in the present, in all fields, not just in this training field, not just education, but in science, in medicine, in culture, in cinema, and so on. We are constantly looking to the world to imitate, and remember one thing, the imitator can only imitate 70% at most. Just look at South Korea, their films are surpassing others day by day. The world now loves Korean films because their scripts are excellent and their actors are very skilled. But now, if we just look at them and imitate, we will only be 70% of Korea, and Korea is 70% of Hollywood, so when will we be equal to Hollywood? Therefore, when we look at any object to learn from or imitate, we must always think, is there a way to do even better? For example, if they are 10 good, can we be 12, 13 good? We might think we are 12, 13 good, but in reality we are just as good as their 10, because imitators rarely surpass the original. Therefore, in the work of training human resources to supply our industry, the requirements are as such, and in our hearts we must always think, we can still train better, because Vietnamese people, after all, still possess a heart, still possess wisdom. We have overcome countless difficulties throughout thousands of years of history. Deep down in Vietnamese people, there is a great heart, a great wisdom, but for some reason, it has not been fully exploited, not yet opened, not yet correctly oriented. So sometimes we are divided, we are hostile, we are complacent, we are aggressive, violent. All those things hinder our talents. But if we open our hearts, if we want to be more perfect, if we want to be more decent with people, if we want to be more responsible for life, then suddenly there really is something, a horizon yet to be reached, not just this much. I've been speaking about the law of cause and effect just now because, with this law of cause and effect, what you sow, you shall reap. And within this law, there are two key aspects. First, when we face misfortune, we find peace, we don't suffer, and we learn to transform bad things into good. Second, when we achieve success, we are not arrogant. Instead, we always strive to do even more good deeds because merit must be infinite. That is how the law of cause and effect applies to our company, so that we ourselves must elevate ourselves. Our current selves are not enough. We can still be better, we can still be more skilled. We must seek that potential. We must find where we can still be more skilled, where we can still be better, so that we can take another step forward. Why? So that the people we train will be even better, not just as they are now. It's not just about training them this way and thinking it's done. No. There's always something more that we haven't found yet that can make the trainees who leave here even better, capable of standing alongside the great powers of the world. Not just at this current level. That is our dream. One more thing in Buddhism that I'd like to introduce is meditation. These past few days, I've been discussing meditation with businesses and entrepreneurs. Meditation is the future of humanity. Why? Why will the whole world eventually have to learn meditation? Because this is a very good method for neurological hygiene, to put it at its lowest level. At a higher level, it is a path that opens the way for people to enter the realm of saints. They will become saints, transcending the human condition. That's the high goal. But for a more immediate goal, it is a very good method for neurological hygiene. For example, every school, every environment in the world understands the importance of physical exercise, moving our hands and feet to improve health. But no one knows how to exercise the mind. And this mind is filled with countless thoughts. Day and night it has to plan and think. Even in sleep it finds no peace. And when all the sufferings of life strike our souls, we become frustrated. We suffer, and all the worries and plans make us tense. Our minds have never truly rested. Our minds have never been repaired, fixed, or relaxed. So there must be a method. And that method is not just a few tranquilizing pills. It's not a few pills that soothe and put us into a deep sleep only to cause another harmful effect. Why? Because when we take a pill to calm our mind and make it easier to sleep, there's a price to pay. We lose a part of our memory, we lose some sharpness. We say, I'm so tired. I have to take a pill to sleep. And we keep working too hard, then thoughts, by inertia, keep thinking and thinking, going into sleep but can't sleep because the whole day's work was stressful. Forced to take a sleeping pill to suppress it, replacing the serotonin in our brain and forcing the brain nerves to sleep. Then we have to pay the price that, after about half a year of using that medicine, we feel we forget many things. Oh, I reported this to you? Did you forget? Sitting there. I told you, you forgot? And that was just last week, whereas before, our mind was not like that. Before, if someone told us something 5 years ago, we wouldn't forget. But now, an employee reports to us just last week. And next week we forget completely. That is the harm of sleeping pills. And the problem is that day we were not decisive, did not see clearly because our sharpness had decreased. Why? Because of medicine, So this is where meditation provides neurological hygiene. It protects our brain and elevates our brain. It ensures we don't suffer from Alzheimer's disease or memory loss in old age. It ensures we don't suffer from Parkinson's disease or tremors in old age. Meditation is that remarkable. And in our current lives, we are happier, more peaceful, and clearer. That is the dream of everyone living in this world, to live joyfully without suffering, to live in this world with clarity. To correctly assess every situation makes it very easy to achieve success. And that is precisely meditation. So, in addition to the law of cause and effect I've just introduced, I also want to speak about one more thing, meditation. But meditation requires practice. Here, due to the program schedule, we won't be practicing meditation, but I'm merely introducing it and hoping that if our company can integrate meditation into its training program, we will become pioneers in the world. If we can integrate meditation into the training program, we will be pioneers in the world. In Japan, a few companies are starting to require their employees to practice meditation. In South Korea, a few companies are starting to require their employees to practice meditation because their leaders clearly see that when employees practice meditation, their work improves, and the results are very clear. For example, a Japanese taxi company requires drivers to complete 3 months of meditation training before being granted a taxi driver's license. You can drive your own car. If you want to crash and die, that's your business. But to drive a taxi carrying passengers, you must undergo 3 months of meditation training. Why? In traffic. Meditation helps us to avoid distraction, and avoiding distraction prevents countless accidents. That's it. Many times accidents happen simply because of 1/5 of a second of distraction. And at high speed, in 1/5 of a second, things have already happened. So that company requires taxi drivers to learn meditation. A Korean company, employees go to work on time in the morning, then sit and meditate for 30 minutes before starting work. Then, during that day, their productivity is higher, their work is more refined and profound, they discover many more interesting things. Clearly, some American schools are starting to apply meditation. And in India, some prisons even require prisoners to meditate. And the success of that prison was made into a movie and popularized worldwide. The movie is like this. When the prisoners first entered prison, their hearts were full of hatred. Some people felt that the sentence was excessive, that they deserved only 5 years but were sentenced to 10 years. That is, some people were truly wronged, someone framed them. So the court convicted them. That is, some people plotted to frame them, then in court they couldn't argue that they didn't commit the crime. There were also people who entered prison with hearts still full of hatred because that day they killed someone but didn't finish. They only stabbed once. They should have stabbed one more time to kill them, so they were arrested in prison, so angry they hadn't finished killing. That is, people in prison had 100 thoughts swirling in their minds because of greed, hatred, competition, injustice, everything, and they were not at peace. Then the leadership, led by the female director, saw that the restlessness in the minds, the chaos in the minds of the prisoners brought about terrible consequences. They left prison and immediately sought to kill each other again. Today they are released from prison, tomorrow they go looking for people to slash. So society is constantly chaotic. So she asked a Zen master to teach meditation. This Zen master was not a Buddhist Zen master, but an Indian meditation master, which was also good. He taught everyone to calm their minds. So everyone calmed their minds, and those prisoners had to calm their minds. When they meditated for a while, those resentments, distractions, competitions disappeared gradually, and the prison, which was like hell, was slowly becoming heaven, because people no longer hated each other. And how do people live next to each other without hating each other? Naturally, they love each other, right? So every day, next to each other, looking at each other's faces, eating the same meal, working together in the same field but not hating each other, that is, kinship gradually appeared. They had to start loving each other. They had to live together and love each other. Only when we have hatred does a distance separate us. But no longer hating, then we love each other. So that prisoner, when they practiced meditation, all their hatred subsided. Suddenly, the warden, whom they used to hate, whom they only wanted to strangle to death to escape, now became their benefactor. They loved their benefactor, their fellow prisoners, whom they used to be hostile with, wanting to fight and kick each other, and it was only thanks to the guards that they didn't kill each other, now became close friends. Because their minds were good, their rehabilitation was good. They were released early. The movie shows the scene where the released prisoner hugs and cries with the warden, because the people they used to hate are now the people they love, and parting with the people you love is a sad thing to cry about. That is the success of meditation. Therefore, meditation brings many good things to the future world. And the world is gradually studying it. But there is only one obstacle: countries are still hesitant to apply meditation in daily life and in educational subjects because, first, there is no scientific research to verify and standardize it systematically, so it still seems somewhat akin to spirituality, which many countries are wary of. Second, many countries around the world follow religions that do not include meditation. For example, Christianity does not practice meditation, as sitting in meditation might be seen as adopting a Buddhist practice. Or Muslim countries do not practice meditation, and now practicing meditation as Buddhists do might be seen as an affront. So, religious forces often prevent governments from incorporating meditation into training institutions. But Vietnam has an advantage. Buddhism is like our national religion. So, if we can integrate meditation into the training program, we will not encounter any obstacles, and this is an extremely beneficial subject for human beings to elevate them to a new level. Earlier, we said that in order to provide the world with better human resources, we must teach them something more than what is currently offered. And to do more in reality, each of us must elevate ourselves to a new level. And what does elevating ourselves entail? It's about rigorous training, not just superficial practice. Rigorous training allows us to move from one step to another, and that rigorous training must fully open our physical strength, open our hearts, and open our minds, and provide us with an entirely new perspective. Is living like this enough? No. We can still live better with everyone around us. It's not just that. It's not just coming to the company, greeting each other, shaking hands, fulfilling the director's duties, reporting, and going home to get paid at the end of the month. No, we can still live better than that. We can still do something better. We can still contribute more than the company requires. And precisely the person who finds this key, who discovers what else they can contribute better, that person has already stepped onto another level, onto another class of human being. Only a person who thinks, oh, I've done enough, I get paid enough, or I avoid hard work and seek easy work, that person is stepping down to a lower class of human being. Among human beings, we have many classes. The obvious class is based on money and power, but there is also a less obvious class, only seen by wisdom and heart, kindness, responsibility, dedication, a golden heart. That class is hard to see, and here we don't care about the class of money and power. But the meaning we want to talk about is the class of the heart. If a person thinks, oh, I've contributed enough of my life, I get paid that much a month, I just do that much, it's enough, then that person is stepping down to a lower class. But a person who thinks, it seems I can contribute more, it seems I can contribute more to this life, to this company, to this work, then that person is preparing to step up to another class. And if that person finds a way to contribute even better, then truly that person is stepping up to a new class. And when that person steps up to a new class like that, then that person can train people of a new class, and to provide these people to go into life to make life beautiful. It's the same with the role of a teacher, like a ferryman taking people across the river. Many people who crossed the river came back to visit the ferryman, and some just left. It doesn't matter. As long as the people we take across the river do good things on the other side of the river, we are happy. So it is with the company. Will the aviation industry be good or not depends on whether we train good people, right, Mr. Thwan? If we train good people, our aviation industry will develop. If we train bad people, the aviation industry will decline immediately. But how can we still be even better, not just this much? The employees we train can be on par with the world's great powers. What is a 5-star standard? What is a 5-star employee standard? Once I was in Binh Thuan and an official invited me to a resort for lunch. That resort was developed by someone from the north who had invested there, and they hired staff to provide service. The resort was seeking recognition as a 5-star establishment based on its architecture, amenities, and so forth. Afterwards, I called the director, the owner, and said, your facility is 5-star. But your staff is not 5-star yet. He asked, why? I said, based on the standards, your facility definitely deserves 5 stars. I said, no, your staff is not 5-star yet. He asked, what is a 5-star staff? A 5-star staff is someone who, when you look at them, you respect them. You don't even need to talk about their service. Just by looking at them, You can tell they are a 5-star employee, elegant, proper, ethical, educated. Just one glance and you see 5 stars, like walking into a 5-star hotel and seeing the building. You think, this really is 5-star. You walk gingerly. It's not like a shabby random motel. So there's a problem. There really are 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star employees. Just by looking at them, looking at the merit they radiate. What does that due to? It's due to the people they recruit. I said, where do you recruit? From the countryside? The uneducated nephews and nieces who come here to find work? So you say it's a 5-star resort, but you hire mostly half-star people. I said, this is not about discrimination, but you must have a training plan to raise their stars. He asked, how do you raise their stars? To raise their stars means their merit, how great their merit is, how bright their stars are. I said, how do you make merit? Teach them ethics. When they have ethics, when they have love for people, their faces change immediately. Their faces become noble. That's all. That's the secret. When we can love the people around us, serve everyone around us diligently, naturally our faces become bright and noble. We elevate our own star class. That's all. And so, now we supply human resources to the aviation industry, and we want the people we supply after training to elevate their stars. Their origins don't matter, where they studied doesn't matter. But within them, the element of ethics, the spirit of responsibility for life. The eager heart that yearns to contribute even better. Remember that contribute even better. This is the mantra that we must ensure our people engrave in their hearts. We can still contribute even better, and we ourselves must set an example. We must understand this more deeply than anyone else. After that, we can make the trainees understand this profoundly. And when they contribute even better, then truly everything will advance. Our company will advance, their lives will advance, the aviation industry will advance, our country Vietnam will advance. Simply because everyone understands one thing. We can still contribute even better. But why can we engrave this? Why do we accept this mantra? We can still contribute even better. Because we believe in a fair law of cause and effect. We believe in a fair law of cause and effect. Whoever sows good things into this life, good retribution will surely come. We believe in that fairness. Perhaps sometimes our salary is not fair, perhaps our enjoyment from the company and from life is not fair, but no, the law of cause and effect will bring fairness. When we firmly believe that we can contribute even better and uphold this principle as our philosophy throughout our lives, then at some point, good retribution will come to us, and not just to us, but to this whole country. If this whole country also understands one thing, we can still contribute even better. So today, at this hour, it's already afternoon, already dark. The temperature is dropping. Rain is still falling, and the sky is still cold, and people's hearts are still melancholy. Coming from the south, we got to visit our homeland in the north. Living in this kind of constant rain and harsh wind, it's truly cold. We are both afraid of the cold and find it interesting because when the country was divided, we studied a lot of northern literature. When we were young, we studied a lot of northern literature. In those works, they always talked about drizzling rain and harsh winds, cold rain and wind. Mother and child huddled, burning a small piece of wood, a small fire. So the image of the North in the past was deeply imprinted in our minds. When the country was reunited and we grew up, we had the opportunity to visit our homeland in the North, and that scene was no longer as common as in the literature we studied, unless we went to the countryside. But our hearts still fluttered, still felt so much love for the streets of Hanoi, because these roads, these footsteps we are treading today, our ancestors have trodden, the hooves of our ancestors' horses have trodden, and the hooves of enemy armies have also passed through. How many heroic feats have been engraved on every path here, which we cherish so much, feeling sacred, feeling precious. So every time we come to the North, we get to live in the historical tradition of our ancestors like that. So today it's still spring, but the weather is cold, the rain is chilling. And as someone from the South, we share this coldness with the people of the North, who are also our blood relatives. In a few days, we will return to the South, also leaving a little bit of our heart here. Actually, many times when we return to the South, we send a message, teacher has left his heart here, please keep it carefully. If you don't keep it carefully, it will break and the teacher will die. That is, going back to the South, but still loving the northern homeland. Now we are also like that. We have to train for a few days, then return to the South, and we also want to say goodbye. We meet and then we must part, But we hope that next time we return, we will meet with different eyes, with different hearts, because we have deeply understood one thing. All of us can contribute more and better. I wish Mr. Thwan and all the staff and employees all the best luck and happiness in life. And I wish our company to become a brilliantly developed company in the industry and in this country. Thank you. Namo Bon Su. Dear Venerable Thuong Toa. After more than an hour with Venerable Thich Chan Quang, sharing and conversing with the staff and employees of our company on behalf of everyone in the company, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Venerable Thuong Toa for giving us the blessing of such a precious and valuable conversation. Once again, I wish Venerable Thuong Toa good health and peace.